Used SUV buyers keep chasing the same obvious names: Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, and because everyone is chasing them, the prices have gotten ridiculous. A clean, older Lexus RX can cost more than some newer, quieter, better-equipped crossovers that nobody even bothers to search for. But that does not mean every cheap premium SUV is junk. Some are cheap because the badge lost heat, some are cheap because the styling aged weirdly, some were discontinued, some were never cool on the internet, and some are sitting on car lots because buyers are scared of anything that does not have a Toyota reputation. This file is about 5 simple, premium, or premium-feeling SUVs and crossovers that deserve a second look with warning labels attached. Imagine someone shopping for a used Lexus RX, but their budget keeps getting laughed at by the market. That is where the 2009 to 2010 Lincoln MKX starts to get interesting. The market ignores this thing because it does not have the cachet of Lexus, the toughness image of Toyota, or the internet fanbase of Acura. To a lot of buyers, it is just an old Lincoln crossover with chrome, wood trim, and grandparent energy. But that is exactly why it can be a deal. Underneath, the MKX is not some fragile, exotic luxury SUV. It uses Ford family hardware, a 3.5-liter V6, and a 6-speed automatic. The 2010 model was rated at 265 horsepower, with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive available, and fuel economy around 19 combined miles per gallon, depending on configuration. The appeal is not speed. The appeal is comfort per dollar. You get a quiet cabin, a high seating position, leather, room for 5, and a relaxed driving feel without paying the everyone wants one tax. Kelley Blue Book shows 2010 private party values roughly in the $4,000 to $6,000 range, depending on condition, which is the kind of number that makes an old luxury crossover worth investigating. Ownership reality is where you need to be honest. This is not a Camry on stilts. Average annual repair costs can sit around the $800 range, so it can be more expensive than a basic mainstream SUV. The big warning label is the internal water pump on the 3.5 V6. When neglected or unlucky, failure can allow coolant contamination, and that can turn a cheap SUV into an engine job. You also want to check the all-wheel drive power transfer unit, suspension wear, wheel bearings, leaks, and old electronics. Best version? A clean 2009 or 2010 with service records, no overheating history, and no all-wheel drive noises. Front-wheel drive is less exciting, but simpler. Verdict: this is not the SUV for resale value worshippers. But for a buyer who wants a comfortable, premium-feeling crossover for basic used car money, the MKX is exactly the kind of forgotten deal the market walks past. Here's the irony with the Subaru Tribeca. Subaru buyers love all-wheel drive. They love boxer engines. They love practical weirdness. But somehow, when Subaru built a larger, quieter, more premium-feeling crossover, the market mostly rejected it. The Tribeca became an orphan, and orphans can be risky. But they can also be cheap. The 2013 to 2014 Tribeca 3.6R uses a 3.6-liter flat-six making 256 horsepower, a 5-speed automatic, and standard all-wheel drive. No CVT, no tiny turbo engine trying to move too much vehicle. Fuel economy is not great, around 18 combined miles per gallon, but the mechanical package is fairly straightforward for what it is. The reason people ignore it is simple. It looks dated, the third row is tight, cargo space is not amazing, and Subaru discontinued it. The cramped third row, limited cargo space, aged design, and poor fuel economy explain why normal family SUV shoppers moved on. But for the right buyer, that ugly market reputation creates the opportunity. You get standard all-wheel drive, a smoother 6-cylinder than most Subaru shoppers expect, decent comfort, good visibility, leather on limited models, and a vehicle that feels more expensive than its badge reputation suggests. Kelley Blue Book shows 2014 Tribeca private party values around $5,000 to $6,600 depending on condition, though dealer asking prices can run higher for cleaner examples. Ownership is not scary if you buy carefully. Average annual maintenance can sit around the mid-$500 range, which is reasonable compared with many luxury crossovers. But do not buy a neglected one. Check for coolant leaks, oil leaks, suspension noise, transmission behavior, all-wheel drive binding, rust underneath, and completed recalls. Some later Tribecas were affected by airbag-related recalls and other safety campaigns, so VIN history matters. And before you even go look at one of these, do not show up empty-handed. Bring a basic OBD scanner and a portable tire compressor. The OBD scanner lets you check for hidden codes before a seller clears the dashboard, and the compressor tells you whether slow leaks are just tires or part of a neglected ownership pattern. Those two tools can save you from buying someone else's problem. Best version? A 2013 or 2014 3.6R Limited with clean history, working all-wheel drive, and maintenance records. Verdict: the Tribeca is not a cool SUV. That is the point. It is a near-premium orphan that can make sense if condition matters more to you than image. Enjoying the golden tips, mate? So grab your phone and help us giving that sneaky subscription, like, and telling me which city are you watching from. This one is not really a traditional SUV. The Volvo XC70 is more like a lifted luxury wagon wearing hiking boots. And that is why SUV buyers often miss it. They search for crossovers, they search for Lexus RXs, they search for Highlanders. Meanwhile, the XC70 sits there with ground clearance, all-weather confidence, a big cargo area, a calm cabin, and one of the most underrated road trip personalities in the used market. The 2013 to 2015 XC70 came with inline-six power in the versions we care about. The 3.2 used a 240 horsepower 3.2-liter inline-six, while the T6 used a turbocharged 3.0-liter inline-six with 300 horsepower. Both were paired with a 6-speed automatic, and many versions came with all-wheel drive. Fuel economy is not amazing, roughly 21 combined miles per gallon for the 3.2 and around 20 combined miles per gallon for the T6. The market ignores it because it does not look like a status SUV. It looks like something a professor, architect, or mountain town doctor would drive forever. But that is part of the magic. The XC70 feels solid, it has real seats, real cargo space, real winter capability, and a calmer personality than most luxury crossovers. Kelley Blue Book shows 2015 XC70 private party values spread widely, from the mid $5,000 range to around $10,000 depending on trim and condition, which puts it in a strange but interesting used car zone. Ownership reality? This is still a Volvo. Average annual repair costs can sit around the $800 range, so it is not cheap like an old Corolla. The 3.2 is the calmer pick. The T6 is the exciting pick. The T6 gives this lifted wagon real punch, but you need to be more careful about oil consumption, turbo-related maintenance, and overall service history. Check suspension components, PCV behavior, all-wheel drive service history, Haldex function, transmission shifts, oil leaks, and electrical features. A cheap XC70 with no records is not a gold mine. It is a future invoice. Best version? A well-maintained 2013 to 2015 3.2 all-wheel drive for simplicity, or a T6 if you specifically want power and have service records. Not an SUV in the traditional sense, but maybe smarter than many SUVs. For the buyer who wants comfort, cargo space, winter confidence, and under-the-radar luxury, the XC70 is one of the market's quietest opportunities. Here's the question. What if the best cheap Mercedes SUV is not the big one, not the flashy one, and not the tech-heavy newer one? What if it is the boxy little GLK 350? The GLK gets ignored because it looks old school. It is upright, chunky, and almost awkward next to newer Mercedes crossovers. It does not have the giant screen, the soft futuristic interior, or the social media image. That is exactly why it matters. The 2013 to 2015 GLK 350 uses a 3.5-liter V6, making 302 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque, paired with a 7-speed automatic. Rear-wheel drive was available, and 4MATIC all-wheel drive is common. The 2013 GLK 354 MATIC fuel economy sits around 19 city, 24 highway, and 21 combined miles per gallon. This is the cleanest luxury SUV argument on the list. It feels like a Mercedes. It is solid, quiet, properly built, and not overloaded with the kind of complicated newer technology that scares used buyers. It also has enough power to feel premium without needing a turbo 4-cylinder. Pricing is why it becomes interesting. Kelley Blue Book shows 2013 GLK 354 MATIC private party values, roughly from the high $6,000 range to just over $9,000 depending on condition, while 2015 4MATIC examples can sit in the low $13,000 range. But do not confuse simple Mercedes with cheap to ignore. Average annual repair costs can sit around the mid $800 range. You want records? You want smooth shifts? You want no warning lights? You want no oil leaks, no neglected brakes, no suspension clunks, no cheap tires hiding alignment issues, and no deferred maintenance. Some GLKs also had recall concerns involving chain tensioner, gasket leaks, and steering coupling hardware, so VIN checks matter. Best version? A 2013 to 2015 GLK 350 gas model. Choose 4MATIC if you need all-wheel drive, but a rear-drive version can be simpler in warmer climates. This is the closest thing here to a true, simple, premium SUV. Not cheap to service, but far less intimidating than many newer luxury crossovers. Bought carefully, the GLK 350 is the market sleeping on an actual Mercedes. Some SUVs are purchased with spreadsheets. The Infiniti FX is not one of them. This thing is what happens when a luxury brand builds an SUV for someone who secretly wanted a sport sedan. The market ignores the FX because it is compromised. The cargo area is not huge, the rear seat is not amazing, the ride can be firm, the styling is dramatic, and Infiniti as a brand does not have the same used market pull it once had. But from the driver's seat, the FX still feels special. The 2011 to 2012 FX35 uses a 3.5-liter V6 with 303 horsepower. The 2013 FX37 moves to a 3.7-liter V6 with 325 horsepower. Both use a 7-speed automatic with rear-wheel drive standard and all-wheel drive available. This is not the practical choice. This is the emotional one. The FX has steering feel, stance, sound, and personality. It does not feel like a soft family pod. It feels like a tall G37 with more attitude. And because most used SUV buyers are shopping for comfort, efficiency, and cargo space, the FX gets passed over by people who never understood it in the first place. Values are all over the place. Makes the service. Kelley Blue Book shows 2013 FX private party values broadly around the high $8,000 range to mid $13,000 range, depending on trim and condition, while specific FX37 trims can price lower or higher based on mileage and equipment. Ownership is not terrible, but it is not invisible. Average annual repair costs can sit around the low $600 range for the FX35 and mid $700 range for the FX37. Watch for worn wheel bearings, oil leaks, rough shifting, neglected fluids, suspension wear, dashboard wear, and any low oil pressure or timing-related warning signs. Older FX35 problem reports include wheel bearing, wear, and timing chain-related complaints, so do not buy one just because it sounds good on a test drive. Best version? A clean 2011 or 2012 FX35 if you want the slightly simpler buy, or a 2013 FX37 if you want the stronger final version and can verify maintenance. For someone who wants maximum cargo space or a soft Lexus ride. But for the buyer who wants a Volvo SUV with actual emotion, this is the final boss of overlooked used crossovers. The lesson is not that every cheap premium SUV is a bargain. Some are cheap for very good reasons. The lesson is that the market is lazy. It rewards obvious badges, obvious reputations, and obvious search terms. That leaves strange opportunities behind. A clean MKX, Tribeca, XC70, GLK, or FX is not automatically a smart buy. But with records, inspection, patience, and the right expectations, each one can deliver more comfort, more engine, and more personality than the market gives it credit for. That is where the hidden gold mine is, not in buying the cheapest one, in buying the one everyone else was too distracted to understand.